Hey, what you reading for?
American Suburbia, where children go missing, which in some cases might not be such a bad thing considering the children we're talking about. Maybe they're underground clawing their way to the surface so they can eat you. Maybe your wife is a robot or could become one. I know a guy. Maybe your whole neighborhood is just some mind control experiment hijacked by a power hungry narcissist. Based on my exposure to American Suburbia through literature, all of that is par for the course, albeit an exclusive members only course. In this video, I will share with you the novels that I've enjoyed that deal with American Suburbia, not only as a setting, but also a character, a theme even. YouTube experts tell me that if I look straight into the camera and ask you kindly to like and subscribe, there is a significant increase in the chances that you will like and subscribe, which is nice. The algorithm needs your help and I appreciate the support. So thank you for liking and subscribing. As always on this channel, there is a mix of horror and literary fiction. 5 books. We have American Suburbia in the late 40s, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and one from the current decade. And we will go through them chronologically, starting with The Road Through the Wall, Shirley Jackson's debut novel from 1948. For this novel, Shirley Jackson drew upon her own experiences growing up in Birmingham, California, somewhere on the San Francisco Peninsula. She claims to have written this book in part to get back at her parents, whom she felt were narrow-minded and greedy people. According to Shirley Jackson, a writer's first novel has to be the one where they get back at their parents. The blurb. Everyone knows the residents of Pepper Street are nice people. Just ask the residents, they'll tell you. Among the self-satisfied group, we have Mrs. Merriam, the sanctimonious shrew, Mr. Roberts with his shoddy side street amours, and Miss Fielding, for whom the proper boiling of an egg matters more than saving a disturbed girl from destruction. It will take the gruesome act of a desperate boy who lives among them to pierce the shell of their complacency and force them to see their own ugliness. Pepper Street is an upper-class neighborhood separated from their lower-class neighbors by the wall of a sprawling wealthy estate. This wall, however, is set to be torn down to make way for a new housing development. And the residents of Pepper Street are concerned. What unsavory elements will this allow into their neighborhood? The residents of Pepper Street, all of whom are families with small children. We have a single mother and her 2 daughters, Beverly, who is developmentally disabled, and Frederica, who cares for her ill mother and her sister. Virginia Donald, the most popular girl in the neighborhood, she learns that Beverly is often in possession of large sums of money. So she and her friend Mary, they convince Beverly to buy them gifts while mocking her behind her back. We have 2 young girls, Marilyn Perlman and Harriet Merriman, who become friends due to their isolation. Marilyn is rejected because she's the only Jewish child in the neighborhood, and Harriet because she's overweight. So the girls form a close bond. However, Harriet's mother orders Harriet to break off the relationship because of Marilyn's religion. And Harriet complies and is left completely alone. 3-year-old Carolyn Desmond is beloved by the entire neighborhood. One evening at a neighborhood party, Carolyn goes missing. She is then found to have been bludgeoned to death. And then an outcast teen, Todd Donald, commits it rhymes with suicide. He commits this act immediately after Carolyn is discovered. Is he responsible for Carolyn's death? Or was it her brother? Or was it someone else? The mystery is not really important in the book. What's important instead is the reaction of the residents who presume Todd is guilty because that allows them to return to a state of normalcy and allows them to continue to ignore whatever darkness they're harboring. The wall comes down, leaving Pepper Street exposed to the rest of the world. What I really liked about this book is, firstly, I am a huge Shirley Jackson fan. I had read a few of her later works prior to reading this, her debut. And it was interesting because the themes and narrative devices that she would use in her later books, such as themes of the hypocrisy of closed-off communities, the obsession with appearances, classism, and bigotry. Here we see those themes in their early and unrefined forms. And as a writer myself, I found it interesting, even inspiring, to see that the great Shirley Jackson wasn't great immediately. She didn't come onto the literary stage fully formed. She worked at her craft and honed her skills in order to produce classics such as The Haunting of Hill House or We Have Always Lived in the Castle, which would come later. And I found it fascinating to see the development of her voice unfold over the course of her novels. It's also, I feel, a rather mean book. It gives American Suburbia a rather ugly depiction, which is a recurring feature of Shirley Jackson's work in her novels and her short stories, all of which, except for her final or her last finished novel, We Have Always Lived in the Castle, one of my favorite books of all time. In that work, she offers a more nuanced depiction of the community. It even has a heart, which leads me to believe that maybe at the end of her life, Shirley Jackson was able to make peace with her enemies. I don't know that for sure, but it makes me feel good to believe that that might have been the case. The Road Through the Wall, a good book, yes. Fans of Shirley Jackson who are curious to see how her unique voice took shape should definitely check this one out. If you've never read Shirley Jackson, what are you doing with your life? That's not how we're supposed to conduct ourselves. Respectable people read Shirley Jackson. But if you haven't yet, this one might not be her strongest. It might not be the best one to have your first Shirley Jackson experience with. But if we're talking about American Suburbia, Shirley Jackson's work definitely needs to be on this list. Next, the obvious, The Steepford Wives by Ira Levin from 1972, the reference for American Suburbia in fiction. Also, one of my favorite horror books of all time. This was Ira Levin's fourth novel. He'd already had a hit with his first novel, A Kiss Before Dying, and his second book, Rosemary's Baby. The Steepford Wives was birthed from the ashes of the free love movement of the 1960s. Many of the icons of that era, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, they died of drug overdoses. The Beatles broke up. Charles Manson and his twisted hippie family went on a disgusting murder spree. So the party of the 1960s came to a screeching halt. And in reaction to that, we saw in America the emergence of a coalition of right-wing political movements and Christian organizations that would come together. And towards the end of the decade, they would give themselves the grotesque moniker of the moral majority, which is to say we are going to impose our morality on others, on the whole of society, actually. And this movement pushed for what they called traditional families and traditional marriages. And by traditional marriage, they don't mean when you sell off a young girl to a business partner or to make a political allegiance, which is in the history of mankind, that's the more traditional form of marriage. But actually what they have in mind is something not that far off. Women are meant to be homemakers. Their role is to serve and satisfy their husbands, the patriarch of the family. It's not a woman's place to explore career options or explore creative ambitions. No. Stay home, cook, take care of the children, serve your husband, and be a good consumer for God and country. Naturally, when there is a political or social movement sweeping the country, horror is there to challenge it, question it, and subvert it. And the Steepford Wives is an excellent example of that role that horror serves in society, or used to serve in society. But that's a discussion for a different video. The stay-at-home wife who abandons her career and her creative ambitions to keep the house sparkling clean and do whatever her husband tells her to do. There was a strong social movement pushing for that, but here in the Steepford Wives, that is the horror. That is something creepy, unnatural. It is a sign that something nefarious is going on. A short book just shy of 200 pages, The Steepford Wives is a satire of American consumerism. It is a send-up of male chauvinism and a condemnation of the subjugation of women. And like most of Ira Levin's work, it features technology being used for nefarious ends. Poignant, at times laugh out loud funny, at times legitimately scary. Of course, if I'm making a video about American Suburbia, The Steepford Wives has to be on the list. A classic for a reason. A classic that has spawned countless imitations. Let's jump ahead to the year 1989 to look at one of those imitations. Perfect Little Angels by Andrew Niederman. Justin Freeman and her parents move into Elysian Fields, an idyllic gated community, which might be an oxymoron. Let me know in the comment section below. This is a community where children respect their elders and everyone is happy all the time, which is obviously a serious red flag that something nefarious is going on. If, for whatever reason, the Steepford Wives wasn't absurd enough for you, Andrew Niederman says, "Hold my beer." And then he gives us this unabashed ripoff or gleeful, cheesy homage, I prefer to say. Elysium Fields was founded by the respected psychiatrist Dr. Lawrence. Andrew Niederman loves using psychology as the source of the horror. But it's not just psychology. It's also military experiments, pharmaceuticals, peer pressure, radio waves. This book is bonkers, but in a good way, I think. The protagonist is the new arrival, teenager Justin Freeman, and she senses early on that something is not right in the community, which I think we should hold off on giving her a medal for her powers of deduction, because there is no subtlety in this book. Andrew Niederman is not known for subtlety. But if you like the theme of American Suburbia in your horror and you like it cranked up to 11 with a good dose of cheese, there's a good chance that you'll enjoy Perfect Little Angels. I did, and I'm not ashamed to say so. Next up, we'll go back to California to the year 1985 for another debut novel, this one from Bret Easton Ellis, Less Than Zero. We have the Los Angeles suburbs where a young man returns home on a break from his studies on the East Coast. He is bored. He meets up with his friends, and everyone is bored. And they have a ridiculous amount of money because their parents all work to some extent in the movie business. And they don't know what to do with all their money. They spend it on things that don't manage to get much of a reaction out of them. They do drugs, which don't manage to get much of a reaction out of them. Less Than Zero is a short book, around 200 pages, wherein very little happens. And the narrator describes what is going on with the same level of enthusiasm as the characters feel, which is to say, none. It is a book that has no style, but because of its consistency and its conviction, the no style manages to be a style in itself. I was very impressed with this book. I think giving the reader no excitement, no passion, no emotion, really. I think that's a daring choice, especially for a first novel. And I think Bret Easton Ellis pulls it off. And it's quite an impressive literary achievement. Less Than Zero does have some disturbing scenes. There is a callousness, a hopelessness to it. American Suburbia is where well-to-do, like-minded people close themselves off from the rest of the world. They commit atrocities. They pay no mind to the atrocities, hardly even registers. They just go on like hamsters on a wheel, a depraved and disturbing wheel. And lastly, we'll close with a more positive depiction of American Suburbia, a relatively recent offering, A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher from 2023. Set in North Carolina, which is a real place, I looked it up. Here we have our protagonist, Sam. She is worried about her mother, so she returns to her childhood home to check in on her. And the timing is good because Sam is an archaeoentomologist, and she was supposed to be out on a dig, but the dig got postponed. And it turns out she is right to be worried because the spirit of her grandmother is starting to act up. The rain is getting pretty heavy, but I'm just gonna have to plow ahead. Thank you for your understanding. Sam's grandmother used to threaten her daughter, Sam's mother. She used to threaten her, saying that the underground children are going to eat her if she misbehaves. But there may be more to that than just a mean thing you say to kids to get them to do what you want them to. We have the creepy neighbor who might be more than meets the eye, the local gossip, a pet vulture. We also have the attractive single man. He's available and could be quite the catch. There's a Confederate painting, which is problematic, and a beautiful rose garden, which is not problematic, except there are no insects in the garden ever, which is strange. What I liked about this book is, firstly, the protagonist, Sam. She is witty. I found her funny and fun to be around. She's also an entomologist and an enthusiastic one at that. So I got to learn a lot about bugs, which I enjoyed. Every character is an adult, which is a refreshing change from a lot of horror that's being put out today. It's marketed as a Southern Gothic. I did not get any of that from the read. There is a romance intrigue, which I think works. I liked the characters. I was rooting for them. It is set in the South, and there is a tinge of darkness to the story. So I suppose that's all you need to call it Southern Gothic. But for me, it felt very modern in its sensibilities, especially. It's a horror book that plays nice, which is a very popular trend in horror nowadays. I never got the sense that anything bad would happen to any of the characters. There are supernatural elements, but I never felt like there was any real danger. It's cozy horror, which is not usually how I prefer my horror, but I liked it for what it is. So there you have it, 5 books about American Suburbia. What do you think of my selection? Do you have any experience and or opinions about the authors or books I talked about in this video? Are there any other books that fit this theme that you can recommend? I always enjoy connecting with you in the comment section. Check out the description box for links to my books. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you at the next video.